Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about a beautiful Neolithic paradise and why you're not welcome. So, there's a few reasons that you're not welcome here, and we'll get into those, as well as the history of this location, what little we know of it, and its people who are the ultimate get off my lawn society. So, picture it. The Andaman and Nicobar Island chain, a series of 527 islands, 37 of which are inhabited. Our first known mention of this place was in the year 637. It was mentioned by a Chinese monk named Yi Sing. I hope I pronounced that properly. After him were mentions by a few Arab travelers, and then next would be the famed Venetian explorer Marco Polo. And that was around 1290. He would write in his diary of the people he encountered there, saying, quote, that they are the most violent and cruel generation who seemed to eat everyone they catch. A bit dramatic. He would go on to describe them as having heads, teeth, and eyes like dogs. The next people to show up would be in 1789. Surprise, surprise, the British are colonizing. That's never fucking new. A settlement was built, and shortly after, that settlement was renamed Port Blair. Now, at this point, many of the islands and tribes had had contact forced upon them. But the island that you can't go to, well, they still haven't been contacted at this point. Now, in 1796, Port Blair was abandoned until being resettled into a penal colony. And that was in 1858. At the time, there were four main tribes on the island. There was the Great Andamanese, the Onge, the Jarawa, and the Sentinelese. Yes, my friends, the island you aren't welcome to is North Sentinel Island. It's about in the middle, it ain't nothing there. Right off the coast of India. So 1867 rolls around, we find a British officer named J.M. Humphrey in charge of the island chain. He would be the first direct sighting of the Sentinelese, other than the rare moments of trade between the tribesmen themselves, long before the British had ever arrived. However, he would not attempt to contact on the advice of the friendly tribes on the other islands. At the end of the 1867 monsoon season, an Indian merchant ship dubbed Nineveh wrecked on a nearby reef, which surrounds the island all the way around. 106 crew and passengers survived and made it to the beach, only to later be attacked by the Sentinelese. Those surviving that, they did manage to be rescued. Now, attacking outsiders is generally the pattern of the Sentinelese people. And from 1879 until 1901, the superintendent of the Andaman Penal Colony was this man named Maurice Vidal Portman. This absolute dickhead decided in 1880 to take an exploratory trip to the Forbidden Island against all warnings. And until this expedition, the tribe had still been considered uncontacted. So when Portman comes ashore with his men, the islanders run into the forest and hide. But not before 2 elderly and 4 children were kidnapped. British tradition. The 2 elderly tribespeople both died shortly after their capture, unfortunately, as they had no immunity to the diseases brought by the colonizers, which we see throughout history repeatedly. After a few weeks of what was likely abuse, invasive physical study, the children were sent back to North Sentinel Island with a whole bunch of gifts. Portman was a weird guy. It's said that he liked to photograph the Andamanese tribesmen and was regularly measuring their meat. Definitely a creeper, if you ask me. Not my kind of guy. So this Portman guy would visit the island several more times between 1883 and 1887. This first contact, kidnapping, mistreatment, and the disease it brought are likely one of the reasons that they are, as a tribe, reclusive and remain violently resistant to outsiders, as nearly all future encounters would end in violence, or begin in violence in many cases. So in 1896, an unnamed convict escapes the Andaman Penal Colony on a raft headed for North Sentinel Island. This would be a mistake. He washed back ashore full of arrows and with a slit throat. This situation found itself repeating one more time in 1899. Another unnamed convict headed into the jaws of fate, and he would also wash ashore in the same condition as the first convict 3 years earlier. 1902 comes and we see a British man named Rogers visits the island, but he doesn't see anybody. 1911, a British official by the name of M.C.C. Bonington attempted to conduct a census on the island, but those he encountered in the canoes and on the beach, well, they just off into the forest. They weren't having none of that. So he would try again in 1932 with absolutely no more success than the first trip. In 1954, the Italian explorer Lido Cipriani came to North Sentinel Island, but he also encountered nobody. In 1956, North Sentinel Island became a prohibited destination when it became an island that you can't go to, with a 5 nautical mile radius, and this was done by the Indian government to keep infectious diseases away from them because they have no immune response for the modern world's diseases and viruses and illnesses. In the early 1970s, an Indian anthropologist named T.N. Pandit began expeditions to attempt friendly contact. These attempts generally ended in a volley of arrows, followed by forced retreat. He tried to show up with gifts throughout the 70s. He and his team would bring coconuts, pots and pans, and sometimes even toys. Although the toys would always be broken and then buried in the sand and essentially never thought of again. While useful items like the cookware would be taken back to the village, but every time the result was always similar, nothing that could count as friendly contact. So in 1974, National Geographic attempted to make a documentary about the Sentinelese. The result was that a crew member got an arrow to the leg, Skyrim style, you know. He was an adventurer just like you until he took an arrow to the knee. So Pandit would continue his attempts through the late 70s. Sometimes the results would be positive, but still not enough to qualify as friendly contact. In less than 5 years, 2 ships had run aground on the reef surrounding North Sentinel Island. The first in 1977 was the Russley, and in 1981 saw the Primrose, and the crew of which, the Sentinelese men carrying spears and building boats, worried the captain of the ship, who radioed for weapons to defend themselves. These weapons would never arrive. However, neither did the Sentinelese. A large, heavy storm had prevented help from coming, but also kept the natives at the beach. The entire crew was rescued. The Primrose was later raided by natives for scrap metal and whatever else was useful to them. They had done the same to the Russley a few years prior, just pick it apart. Pandit's years of attempting to form a relationship with the islanders failed to show any sustainability. However, he would continue anyways. And in 1991, he and his team had the first and only friendly encounter with the people of North Sentinel Island. Now, this encounter was likely due to the fact that on this trip, he brought a woman. Another Indian anthropologist named Madhumala Chettopadhyay, I'm probably butchering that, her presence would make this trip more interesting for the team. For the first run from the main ship in a small boat, they loaded up a bunch of coconuts to drop off in the water as gifts. The tribesmen armed with bows and spears came to collect the loot. They did this until the small boat ran out of coconuts, and they went back to the main boat to refill. On the second run, she had an arrow pointed at her head by a young tribesman. This was stopped by a Sentinelese woman shortly after they retreated. They just After they grabbed their stuff, they just knew. So on the third run, they finally got brave, getting out of their boat to hand the gifts directly to the islanders. This would be dangerous, but this would not lead to sustained contact, but it was a watershed moment for the researchers. It was the first friendly encounter. And by 1997, all visits to the island had ceased. The Indian government did not want to create a dependence on these gifts brought by researchers that could lead to problems. Dependence issues, not sustaining their own selves because they're counting on someone else. In 2004, a large earthquake in the Indian Ocean caused a tsunami, which, to the surprise of all, raised the island's elevation several feet. 3 days after the tsunami, the Indian government had sent in a helicopter to check on the state of the islanders. They were just fine. They were firing arrows and throwing spears at the helicopter as soon as it got close. The tribe was absolutely unbothered by the tsunami. Now, in January of 2006, 2 fishermen illegally fishing near the island in the prohibited zone would not make it home, as the Sentinelese decided to just poke a bunch of holes in them. Coming to this place is a sure way to not get a funeral. They don't get far when attempts to recover bodies are made, and none have ever been done successfully. And none of the islanders will face prosecution for murdering you. Leave them alone. In November 2018, an evangelical Christian missionary named John Allen Chow decided it was a good idea to introduce the totally isolationist Kills Outsider tribe to his pal Jesus. This would not go well for him. So, born in Scottsboro, Alabama in December 91, he was a graduate of Oral Roberts University. In 2017, he would go to a missionary boot camp through an evangelical group called All Nations. Not great people. Some of the training was to go through a fake native village while other missionaries pretended to be spear-wielding natives. Because that doesn't sound racist. Not at all. It's during this time that he gets the warm, illuminating glow of a really bad idea: to convert the hostile natives of North Sentinel Island. He believes the island was, and I quote, Satan's last stronghold on Earth. In October 2018, Chow packed up and moved out to Port Blair, the capital of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So after preparing his contact kit, he was ready to go. In November, he paid a fisherman the equivalent of around $400 to take him to the island. Chow was completely aware of the risks that he was about to undertake. He wrote in his diary, quote, "Lord, this island is Satan's last stronghold, where none have heard or had the chance to hear your name. The eternal lives of this tribe is at hand, and I think it is worthwhile to declare Jesus to these people. Please do not be angry at them or at God if I get killed. Don't retrieve my body." Nobody was going to. So on November 15th, he got a bit closer than a quarter mile. The fisherman had warned him not to go any further. He did not listen. He forged on ahead in his canoe with his waterproof Bible. He was quickly met with a hostile response to his presence, and he left. The next visit would be a mix of amusement and hostility. He tried singing church songs to them with zero result. Now, when he tried copying the tribesmen's language, this amused them. And it made him think that they were swearing at him, and that's what he was trying to repeat. So when he tried to hand over some gifts, a boy shot an arrow at him, hit his waterproof Bible, held right in front of his chest. So he took off. He made tracks. His last visit would be 2 days later on November 17th. Chow asked the fishermen to leave him there again this time, giving them his diary. When they returned, they would see the tribesmen dragging Chow's body away and burying him. After they returned to Port Blair, Chow's diary was given to his friend. Chow's body was not recovered and is still on North Sentinel Island to this day. In 2018, Chow was the recipient of the Darwin Award. an award given to those who remove themselves from the gene pool via death or sterilization in the dumbest ways possible. North Sentinel Island probably isn't the place for missionary work, but that's just my thoughts. Tell me what you think down in the comments. And now, we will come to the most recent incident, because yeah, it happened again, this year. On March 31st of 2025, an American named Mikhailo Polyakov was determined to make us all look bad. He's a YouTuber mostly known for being a real dummy. His last big attention grab was when he took a visit to Afghanistan to meet the Taliban. So this doofus gets in a dinghy, which is a small boat, and went to North Sentinel Island. Upon arrival, he filmed, took sand samples, and lucky for him, he met no one. Before he left, he set out a coconut and a can of Coke as an offering, because they're actually even going to know how to open a can, let alone want hot Coke. So he left with no contact or sightings, but he gets arrested in India for going to the island. His presence alone could have been enough to wipe out the tribe. Even the can of Coke that he left could have had who knows what germs on it. He's currently free on bail last I checked, and was required to stay in India in order to face fines and possibly up to 5 years in prison. This tribe is clearly not interested in our world. And I mean, can you blame them? Why give up paradise for another parking lot? Alright, now we're going to go from the realm of the known facts to the land of a little bit of conjecture and conspiracy. So there's a lot that we don't know 100%. Such as, where does their drinking water come from? Is there a spring? Is it just rain conservation? We don't actually know anything about their water sources. We don't even know the actual size of the tribe. Estimates range anywhere from 50 to 250 people. The Sentinelese are a pre-fire people, which means that they basically wait for lightning to hit something and then haul up and kind of keep the fire going. Which also means that they're a pre-metal society as well. They know what it is and they use metals, but they don't know how to make them or produce the ore or anything like that. It's not available on the island. We know almost nothing of their housing, whether it's in a cave, huts, longhouses. We don't really know. We do somehow know that they sleep on the ground, as their beds are on the ground, not raised off the ground. Looking at satellite imagery, we can see several paths around the island, but not much besides that, and a lot of heavy tree cover. Their food source is entirely hunter-gatherers, supplementing hunting birds, turtles, wild boar with the fish, nuts, berries, and tuber plants that grow around the island. And all without the artificial chemical flavors that we in America enjoy so much. The Sentinelese are believed to have been on the island for around 30,000 years. A long time. These people were already there when the continent of Sundaland sank below the waves of the Younger Dryas period at the end of the last ice age. If Atlantis is real, these people were there before Atlantis even would have been developed. This tribe is older than any empire we have ever heard of. Their language is unknown, and it's unfamiliar even to the other local native tribes. Now for the conspiracies of North Sentinel Island. The first is that they're an Indian Wakanda, insofar as that they're hiding some kind of advanced civilization with advanced technology, and they're only isolationists to hide those advancements. Not likely, but it would make for a great story. The second conspiracy that I'd come across was that it's actually a secret base operated by the Indian government, although one article said it was where some secret society ruled from. Both of which are unlikely, as there doesn't seem to be any underground that we are aware of, and with no visible buildings on the surface of the island, I'm doubtful any of these conspiracies have a great deal of water to hold. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you think they're just hiding secrets? Do you think they're simple people that just want to be left alone? Either way, North Sentinel Island is an interesting place, paradise for the Sentinelese, an Eden of their own, and a final resting place for anyone that wants to come bother them. So, I hope you've enjoyed this trip through the margins of history. We'll see y'all next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps, and we need it. Thank you.